This is the fourth narrated PowerPoint for Module 4, Roots of Reform. And in this PowerPoint, we're going to be looking at the structural context of schooling. And under the structural context, we're looking probably less at students and really more at how schools are organized. Particularly the staff. And so the ideas are, organizing for maximum efficiency. And the idea that organizational features are often unpopular, and certainly changing an organizational structure becomes unpopular because we've had the same organization in our schools for well over 100 years. The success of the current organizational structure is questionable. Our times have changed pretty dramatically, but the organizations of our schools, the organizations haven't changed. And again, one of the articles that you are being asked to read is the factory model. And so think about organization as you read that article. And challenging accepted organizational structure in schools is going to require looking at some new assumptions. And it's going to require a willingness to rethink our schools. So let's look at how this particular context is organized. Again, there are 3 sections. The first is coordination of work. And under coordination of work, we look at bureaucracy versus democracy. Under the next one, relationship among workers, we look at control versus empowerment. And the third segment is productivity, where we will be looking at high standards versus improved processes. So let's go to coordination of work. And bureaucracy versus democracy. Under the conservative view, it states that the formalization of power relationships, that is, specification of work responsibilities. The principal is the head of the school. The teachers, are responsible to that individual. That kind of power relationship. So, formalization of power relationships, specification of work responsibilities, and implementation of organizing processes consistent with these principles establish the conditions for coordinated work. So the idea that everyone within the school has a specific role, specific responsibilities, and if everyone is efficient and effective in those roles, then there will be coordinated work. The reform view states that democratic structures that promote individual responsibility, shared activities, and implementation of processes consistent with principles of social justice and individual growth and development establish the conditions for coordinated work. So later in the semester, when we're looking at shared leadership, shared responsibilities, the idea that, well, everyone has certain responsibilities. Some of those responsibilities must be shared. The leadership must be shared in order for coordinated work to occur. And so under relationships among workers, it's control versus empowerment. And under the conservative view, it states that goals, specification of task assignments, and decision-making grounded in impersonality promote fairness, reduce interpersonal conflict, and optimize organizational control. In your Roots of Reform document, the authors provide some interesting examples of how that might not work. Under the reform view, it states that norms and ethics of professional practice and decision-making grounded in values of social justice and responsibility promote equity, tolerate conflict, and optimize individual control. And again, when you look at the Every Student Succeeds Act in the next weeks, you'll see that under the area of teacher quality, the idea of professional norms certainly comes into play. And I hope you're noticing that under the reform view, the idea of social justice and equity is emphasized. So under the third segment, individual and collective productivity, we have high standards versus improved processes. So under the conservative view, it states that performance standards and assessment strategies ensure high-quality organizational outcomes. We have new leadership standards in Maryland. So we in fact do have performance standards. And whether you're looking at assessing teachers or students, we have those strategies in place. And the question is, has that resulted in high quality organizational outcomes? Is student achievement where we want it to be, or is it increasing? Under the reform view, it states that improved organizational processes ensure high quality organizational outcomes. So the emphasis is on the processes in place as opposed to having the standards and assessments in place. So this concludes our fourth narrated PowerPoint on the structural context of schooling. And hopefully these are providing, again, an advanced organizer for you to delve into Roots of Reform. The next narrated PowerPoint and final narrated PowerPoint is going to be on the individual within the school and school processes.